So, all right, let's just start. Okay, so I'm atheist. You're taking like theist God exists. Okay. So tell me.
Um, yeah, so my point is that I don't know if theism is irrational, right? Maybe that was my contention because from what I heard from Splash, I don't know if there's a particular justification I would accept for God though, right? Like it seems to be the case that like most arguments for God is just really like gobbledygook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I would say that like an argument for God being like the Kalam or like being like tag would just be incoherent because I don't maybe I mean I'm willing to see what you would say in light of these arguments, but I don't accept them myself. But
Okay,
I don't
sure,
think it's irrational. That's all I
sure,
mean to
sure.
say. I mean, what do you? Because I want to straw man your position before I even like begin. What is your position? Do you think what is theism to you?
The belief in the existence of God.
Right. And do you think that's an irrational belief?
Well, irrational if it lacks justification. If you cannot justify your
Okay.
belief, then I think it's rational.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think experience is irrational?
It's rational only for natural claims. If you want me to elaborate on that, I can.
I would love for you to
Okay, so
elaborate.
I'm gonna give you two scenarios. Okay. In the
Yeah.
first scenario, the guy calls the police and he says he witnesses a robbery, right? What is the
Yeah.
police's response?
Sorry. You said that as if somebody witnesses a robbery
Yeah.
and okay,
Yeah, what do you think the police are gonna say to that?
that they would ask them questions about what
Yeah.
happened at the robbery, and yeah.
Yeah, okay. In the second scenario, the guy says, I witnessed a magical blue dragon teleport all the money into its mouth and then blast blue flames everywhere and fly away, right?
Right.
The police to that are either going to hang up, say you're on drugs or crazy or something, right? Or they're
So you're
praying.
saying because other people feel a certain way,
No,
therefore it's like
no.
irrational?
I'm saying that if you claim supernatural based on anecdotal evidence, that's not a valid justification.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying you're saying like thing like miracles, right? Things that break the laws of nature,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what it means because it seems to me when we talk about the law of nature being broken and we experience them, what is our? Are you just willing to say that we should just deny the experience?
No, I'm saying that we should not believe every single person who says they claim to see
Well, that's
supernatural.
not that's not what I mean by that, right?
Okay.
I'm saying people who witness God or some in some sense, right? Like people who have strong testimony in terms of some kind of creator, right? Would they be justified? Not would we be justified in believing them? Would they be
Oh,
justified?
okay.
That's the
So
question.
we would have to test their experience with what we can perceive. Like we would try to explain this
So
naturally, and
in
if we,
accordance, well, no. Again, is it are they justified,
yeah,
not we justified in
yeah,
believing them?
yeah, I'm saying so. They would have to test their experience under some
I
natural
don't I
law.
don't know I don't know how you would do that if it's
So
supernatural.
you would just say, is there any alternative explanation to this experience? Like, let's say
I don't.
they like
That
heard
just seems weird.
God's voice. Is it like what explanation are you trying to? Well, what example of
Isn't
God's
that
voice
isn't
are you
that
using?
literally just being ad hoc though?
What is
I
that? What
don't
do you say?
know. Isn't that just being ad hoc?
I don't know what that means. So
You don't know what it means for something to be ad hoc?
no, I do not.
Ad hoc just means something has like no falsification criteria. Like if I were to give you like a round earth, right, and I give you every explanation, a flat earther can just start like giving models of how a flat earth could work and how like you can and if you know like they can deny certain aspects of my model and say like gravity doesn't exist and stuff like that. That would be because we're going off of our observations, not of ways we can explain our observations in the sense that we can just explain away the observation. Because it seems weird to say that you can use some kind of criteria to explain away the thing, because I can explain away anything if that's the case. Right now, I can posit the idea that right now we're talking, but I also can posit the case that right now we're in a simulation playing a game, and I'm actually just like teleporting in and out of the voice call, right? But it's just like I can't experience it. Like it's weird, right? Like
Well,
just
by
deny direct
explain away,
experience.
I mean what makes the most sense. we would have
What makes
just
the most sense?
yeah.
Well, that's just begging the question, right? The experience would be the one that makes the most sense. Like, I don't get it.
So hold on, okay, let me give you another example. Let's say like some crackhead does DMT, right? And then he sees
Yeah.
it like a talking frog, and then he gets
Yeah.
off the drug, but he still had the experience of the talking frog. So
Okay.
which is gonna make more sense?
But like when we're talking about like theism, we would, like surely we're not accepting somebody who was like they could explain away in the sense that they already know the causal link was DMT, but people who don't know the causal link is what the problem is, right? It just begs the question almost, right?
Yeah, and I'm just saying that we would
Like I don't know what's the difference between you experiencing a creator, but you could just give an a priori rejection of it, but not doesn't entail the actual rejection. Like how do you know if you've actually experienced a creator? You would just say you never experienced it in the first place. You would say that I was hallucinating. Like you would never be able to justify the position if it could be the case, which it seems totally logically possible, right? So why is it so how would you be able to even account for that in your position if there is a creator that you experience? You would just say it's like shrooms, right? You would just say that you're going through some kind of
Altered
ego trip or
perception?
some shit, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, so you see what I mean? It seems ad hoc.
Okay, yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's all my point to say is, right? It's like that the person who experiences it doesn't know the causal link. Like somebody somebody who goes and because I've heard stories all day, right, about like people who've like had these weird seemingly supernatural events that got them closer to like what they think is God, and they had some kind of like something about them, and they can reduce the propositions in terms of experience, and it would seem almost weird to say that they would deny it, right? Like I think a good way of putting it is that I can go like let's say I build a time machine, and I go back in time, right? But then I don't know, I get caught in some theories that basically demonstrate that time travel is impossible. How do I reduce that experience? Because it's just weird to explain away the experience, right?
Yeah.
That's all I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
By explain away, I would probably repeat this, but like what makes the most sense? It would just be like, okay, well,
Oh, are you appealing to like Occam's razor?
it'd be a little bit of Occam's razor and like what is more rational, right?
Are you talking about what is the most repeatable, like inference wise? And like, are you talking about like induction and abduction?
Something similar, I'd say, because
I mean, do you accept the rejections of induction by Hume?
I don't really know how to answer that question.
Are you familiar with the problem of induction?
No, I know what induction is, but I don't know what the problem of it would be.
The problem would be is that you can't presume the past is going to be like the future. So no matter how many times I'm going to repeat it, it doesn't entail that it would be probabilistic in the future.
Well, based on that logic, wouldn't any presupposition also be like invalid? Because isn't that what a presupposition is?
Presuppositions don't rely on inference, or not. They're presupposition.
Yeah. Hold on.
A presupposition by definition is not valid. I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh, okay. So I'm saying that basically, right? If I were to explain away like an anecdotal experience of like the supernatural, like a god, right? I would say, okay, so have you ever heard of the illusionary truth effect? Do you know what that is?
The illusionary or truth effect is that when you like experience a magician and you think that it's the case that he actually is, like sawing someone in half.
No,
like
that's
that?
just like eye tricks, or like this just plays tricks in your
Yeah,
mind.
no. What's then? I don't know what the dichotomy is.
It's basically if you are told something repeated enough times to be true, then you yourself will eventually believe it's true. Otherwise, unless
I
you like
mean,
are
yeah, I would
demonstrated
agree
to be
with that.
false,
Yes.
right? And have you ever heard of a phantom pregnancy?
I'm not familiar with the phantom pregnancy.
It's basically women can believe that they're pregnant, and they'll start experiencing symptoms of being pregnant. They'll like look pregnant. They'll have all.
Oh, you're just talking about placebo effects, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if like so most people who believe in God, they are like raised in that like a family that believes in God. They learn it from their parents, right? Over
Well, yeah.
time,
I wouldn't say that I was, but I think
Yeah.
most people are.
right? And so this would by the definition of the illusionary truth effect, right? You're repeatedly
It'd
told
be
something.
confirmation bias. Yeah,
Yeah, it
that's
could
what
be
you're meaning to
confirmation bias.
say,
Exactly.
right? Because you have something intuitive to you, right? That you've been given early on, and that you would be the case that you can use that as an explanation. But I don't think that's the case for most theistic things, because I don't like, it seems to me the case that they just agree that there's something supernatural in a god, and so they stick to their religion. But it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't entail that their religion is true, right?
Yeah,
I
and I'm
wouldn't.
saying that this effect could explain delusions as if they say they experience the
Well,
supernatural.
they would agree. Well, they would agree that it would only posit theism, not a particular branch of theism. It seems to me, right? Because it's like they experience this seemingly supernatural, like metaphysical being that it seems to have a will, and they have these like experiences that seem to coincide to this position. And I just don't know what it means to say that like they're like wrong in believing that if they like wait, let's posit for a quick second that they actually do experience it, right? Would they be justified in believing it?
Yeah, if like it actually it happened, yeah, they'd be
Yeah. So
justified.
what's the how do you make the distinction between somebody actually experiencing and somebody not like experiencing but they're hallucinating? How do you know the difference? That's my
Well,
problem.
how do we know the difference? Is we basically use natural laws to determine what is truth, right? What
Wait,
makes
so but we were talking about something like, yeah, natural laws, but we're talking about like miracles, right? Something that breaks the supernatural,
oh
but you would just reject that.
okay, hold on. But what makes more like sense is what we would determine like what is truth and what is false, right? What is more
What makes
rational?
more sense?
Yeah, what is more rational would determine what is true and what is
I
false.
mean, again, I would just have to pause it back to what do you mean by sense, right? Something that can, like, for example, if I can just say that like I can just say it's a hallucination, it'd be more coherent,
Um, well, it could be, but you would need to base
right?
that off of something. You can't
Would you
just
say that somebody? Would you say that if you experience the divine creator, you'd be more justified to say that it's a hallucination because you can't tell the difference? You'd say that it explains it better. So you would say that, even though you experienced it perfectly,
well,
right?
well, then how would hold on. So which one would be more rational? Saying you experienced a divine creator or a magical blue dragon?
Which one would be more what?
Rational. How would you?
Whatever. What it seems to me, what is rational? Well, it depends, because it seems to me we're equivocating rationality. Rationality seems to be the rules of inference, but it seems to me that experience we can call rational because we are experiencing it, right? So I think there's two different types of rationality we're applying here. When I talk about rationality in the sense that the rules of inference and justification, I think it's totally fine to say that there are that the position is unjustified. But I don't think it's a problem to say it's just weird to say that it's irrational, because I can experience things that I couldn't really posit or explain, right? Like let's say we go back to 200 BC, and I experienced like the night sky and a shooting star, and I couldn't explain that. I couldn't justify that experience. It seems weird to say that therefore they are, it's it's an irrational belief, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Okay.
weird because you don't have an explanation, therefore it's irrational. It just seems weird to me.
But okay, so certain. Do you know what phenomenal conservatism is?
Phenomenal conservatism. Oh God, I've heard it like probably a million times. I don't know why. It's like the denial of oh God, it's like the denial of all like supernatural events. Is it? Or it's the opposite?
It can be. It
Okay,
can be.
I don't remember.
It's
Explain it to me.
basically that what we experience is what actually is. It's a belief that what we experience is what actually is, right? Like what we see, another thing. Like what we're
Yeah,
sensitive to.
that seems like, what is it? Well, do you know John Sorrell's position?
No, I don't. Explain it.
Shit, I don't remember. I actually think it's something different. I don't know if it's phenomenal conservatism, but it's called like oh God, it's like some really bad whatever. It's like realism, nihilism, not nihilism, but it's like it's something. It's like an insult, but it's like an actual position. All right. And basically, the idea is that whatever you experienced is directly to what it is, right? And it's like if I, but like the rejection obviously is that if you experience dreams, therefore dreams are true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or that, like, have you ever done that, like as a kid, you touch your eyelid and you kind of move things and you duplicate things almost?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
seems
Exactly.
almost to say that you would have to say that you are actually duplicating them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. 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 Okay.
Yeah.
So,
It seems
based on
to
this, is
reduce itself.
that do
Yeah.
you think that all of our knowledge is based on our sensory perception, on like our
No,
experiences?
no, no, no. I think things like, for example, causality isn't a sensory experience at all.
Okay. Okay. So our knowledge is not based on this. So how do we determine something is true objectively? Like, how do we know?
Objectively,
Yeah.
I don't. Again, I would appeal to the rules of inference. But I don't think it's problematic or irrational. Like, again, I don't think it's
Well,
justified.
what do you
By the
define as
rules.
irrational? What do you think is irrational?
Well, it seems to be that irrational things are things that we can't appeal to in the past experience, or anything that, like, I would just like apply. I would just add on to the original definition, which is that something that doesn't follow the rules of inference, or any things that don't apply to past experience. Like, if I were to say that instead of playing my guitar,
Whoa.
I'm actually playing a ukulele, but I have no reason to believe that. That seems irrational.
Well, can I say that? Can I rephrase what I mean by an irrational belief?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, belief, unjustified belief in the supernatural, I'd say would be an irrational belief. Anything that is beyond the natural and is also unjustified. Because, like, let's say you believe that.
Do you think that you would have to? What's the argument for that?
The argument. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I could present more like an example. Hold on. I think I have a syllogism for it somewhere,
Well,
but
what?
I don't want to feel like
Okay.
looking for it right now.
Yeah, that's fine. You would just have to like show that, like, I mean, are you gonna pull Hume's syllogism against miracles, or what's the syllogism?
It was basically an example. I'd have to find it. An example will just be easier. So,
Yeah, that's fine. Take your time, dude.
right. So remember in the original analogy I gave earlier about how the guy called the police, in the first one it was a robbery, in the second one he claimed like a magical dragon like ran around. And
Yeah,
did
yeah,
stuff,
that
right?
just seems to be like appealing to other people's, because they don't have other people don't have that past experience, right? But it seems to be the case that if we agree that something's logically possible, right? Like, we can agree, let's just say for fucking example, that in a possible world that we evolved, that there was such a thing as a blue dragon and it evolved in such a way, and that it was just like it just came out now, right? It seems totally plausible. So how do you do things that are like that seem to be experienced, but you couldn't explain, like you I don't know
Well,
how you would
if things aren't logically
account for
possible,
it.
right? But a
Well,
person claims to experience like
Well,
that.
yeah, my point is to say that God is logically possible. Are you denying that?
Okay, but you understand that even if God is logically possible, right? Would God
Yeah.
still be supernatural?
Would God still be supernatural?
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Okay. And
You would say that in all possible worlds there is no supernaturals. What your argument is, but you would have to demonstrate that, because again, logically possible is just conceivability. Can you conceive of miracles?
yeah, I could.
Okay, then it seems logically possible.
Okay. So you understand that what do you define as like supernatural?
Supernatural would be breaking the laws of nature, I imagine, right? Like, for example, like, I think it's called in actual philosophy, pneumic modality versus metaphysical modality, right? So pneumic modality would be things like the law of conservation in matter, right? Some shit like that, right? Where these things can't be destroyed or beyond, but we can still conceive metaphysically of some place of some kind of place where they actually break the law of conservation of matter, right? Shit like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I just.
basically, I just reject things that like supernatural claims that would lack a justification, right? Because like in a debate, right? In an
Supernatural
argument.
claims that lack a justification.
Yeah, I would reject that because like in an argument, right? Let's say person.
I mean, I don't disagree that you can actually reject that. I think it's totally fine to reject that because you didn't experience it. But I'm saying is the man who experienced it justified? That's my question. Like, I'm totally fine with you saying that.
Well,
I reject
I think he's justified. Yeah, I think he's totally justified.
Okay. Then I don't think we can say that theism is irrational. And that's all I would say.
Oh, okay.
That it would follow from that.
All right. So
That's all I mean to say, right? It's like it's accounting for, because it seems every attack of it just seems to be ad hoc, right? That's all I mean. Now I'm interested in wondering, like I'm wondering what would your response be, because I don't accept the argument myself, but what's your response to the cosmological argument?
Is it the Kalam's cosmological argument?
No, it's not Kalam. It's the second way of St. Thomas Aquinas. That it's well, I mean, it's because I don't agree with P1 of Kalam, which is to say that all things begin to exist have a cause, because that just only seems to me an appeal to intuition, right?
Also, so what is this cosmological argument you're talking about? Because the
I'm
only
just
one
talking about the one where it's that causes have to have preceding causes. That preceding causes, there's either an infinite regress of causes or there's an uncaused causer. It's not the same thing as Kalam, because he just says that all things that begin to exist have a cause. Right?
Well-
It's just a little. It's a small and I do distinction.
Okay, so it's just presenting two possibilities. That one, there's an infinite regress.
And then it's a disjunctive syllogism, right? It refutes the one, therefore the other, right?
Okay, so there's an infinite like regress of causes, or there's one like base foundation of causes. Is that like the two possibilities?
That there's an infinite regress or there's not an infinite regress. That's all it is. Yeah,
Oh,
that's the two
okay,
possibilities.
okay. So like, even if you
And
were
then you.
yeah, what do you say?
Oh yeah, and my point was to say that an infinite regress would just become the Arrow's paradox, right? Which would just like reduce the absurdity of or just reduce the absurdity for an infinite regress.
Yeah, so like even if you were to choose one, you still have to justify that being like created by a god. So I don't see how this would and it would imply like
Both
God
would have to be
created.
created by a god.
No. If you were to choose one, you would still have to justify a god being the creator.
So if you choose one, right? If you choose the infinite regress, then you have to answer why an infinite amount of causes could get to this cause, right?
Yeah.
And that would so you would just reject that and go to the uncaused causer. And an uncaused causer, by definition, would be seemingly a non-temporal, immaterial being that had a will, as in it, because it acted independent and just therefore follows to be personal and just seems to, by definition, be God. That's what the argument goes as, right? So what's the rejection to that, right?
Well, I really don't know a rejection to that specifically, because the main argument I'm familiar with is Kalam's cosmological argument. This is the first time I've heard this one.
Yeah, this is Aquinas' second way. This is the argument from causation. I mean, so what would be your rejection to Kalam then?
My rejection to Kalam is that it in no way supports theism. It really only supports there being a first cause.
That it doesn't support theism?
No, it doesn't, because and it's like the base of the argument, just like the premises in its conclusion. Like the conclusion itself is just that the universe has a first cause.
But what does the first cause entail? Like the first cause would be, say, that they would transcend causality, I thought, right? Because everything has to have a cause except seemingly this first cause, right?
Well,
so it would entail a lot of things, right?
Yeah, necessarily, but since it is a conclusion, right? It really would just end there, and then that would be.
No, it doesn't end there. That's the point,
unless
right?
you add on your own
Well, it's not adding on. It's just like concluding, right? Because if it's a first cause, it would probably entail to something non-temporal, and if something is non-temporal, then it would entail something like that would be immaterial and all these things, right? It would seem to have a will because it was it was an independent abstract object, and all these things. It would seem to validify a creator, like a transcendental creator, right? And that seems to be by definition God. So what's the rejection?
Well, let me think about that.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, like the problem with like that line of thinking is that you would just have to say, well, this God came before time, right? So it's
Yeah, we would be saying that it exists. It's not